Keys to success number 95. We're going to talk about the importance of keeping your blood sugar stable. Dr. Martin Rutherford, certified functional medicine practitioner, chiropractor.
Dr. Randall Gates, board certified chiropractic neurologist, also a chiropractor.
So we're going to talk about blood sugar. This is the ever ongoing effort to help you to get better and to stay better. We are going back to reviewing and adding to some of the keys to success that we have previously done. I believe this was keys to success number 16 originally. We're regrouping these. We're putting them into a kind of an order where Dr. Gates may even be able to use them during your treatment. And so that's why we're repeating some of these. Blood sugar, it's interesting when I started functional medicine, before you were part of the process here, or the process here now, blood sugar was where we started instead of the gut. Because it seemed like a good place to start because it's so important. And if your blood sugar remains stable, lots of good things happen. And if your blood sugar doesn't remain stable, lots of bad things happen. And I do think it's maybe something that people don't grasp as well as we'd like them to, especially when you start having people, quote unquote, eat every couple of hours, every 2 or 3 hours. And then there's the perception that you have to, eat a meal or something like that. I know for myself, a lot of brain issues. Those of you listening, I have had concussions also, as well as I have the number of issues that create inflammation in the brain. And I was just sharing with Dr. Gates how much staying on the eating multiple times a day, keeping my blood sugar stable, watching my diet, has helped my brain, in my opinion, to the degree where I have to take very few supplements, brain supplements. And I believe that that's a significant part of it because it's keeping my brain properly, the proper nutrients in there. It's keeping inflammation down, but you probably get into a lot of things that blood sugar does, like they can damage neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals that make your brain work if your blood sugar is off, and so on and so forth. So this is really, to me, a very important part of, again, getting better. But the things start to fall off maybe 6 months after you're gone. This is a really, really important part of keeping your brain and your nervous system functioning normally.
Absolutely, because so many of you come in here eating the standard American diet. You're eating a diet that's rich in carbohydrates, even if you don't realize it, even if you think that you're eating healthy in terms of you having like oatmeal for breakfast. Like we were talking about a few weeks ago, just 2 small packets of oatmeal have 50 grams of carbohydrates in them, which is a lot of carbs. And so you go from that lifestyle to where then you shock your body by going onto our program. And our program is really devoid of carbohydrates for the most part. We have sweet potatoes, there's some fruit, but those carbohydrates that seem to sustain people for a long period of time just are not on the diet. Try not to sneeze. So with that being said, it's very important for you to eat every 2 to 3 hours as you're going through this process, because you're going to have a tendency to slip into hypoglycemia just because your insulin system is not sensitized yet. So many of you are resistant to insulin when you're coming through the process. And because of that, you eat a normal meal. And if you don't eat for 6 hours early in the course of the treatment plan, then you're going to really crash. And it may manifest as having brain fog, not being able to find your words. It may manifest as fatigue, nausea, irritability. And so often when I'm working with patients in the early part of the program, I'm just finding that they may not be feeling well because they're not eating frequently enough. Especially the thin patients. The thin patients seem to have the most difficulty with this, but not always either. And then as we get your insulin system sensitized, that's where we find that a lot of you can actually fast or begin to fast at that point. And so we've talked about fasting before. We're probably going to do a whole hangout on fasting. And fasting has tremendous benefits. It's kind of the next step in sensitizing your insulinergic or your insulin system. But to take somebody who's used to eating the standard American diet and then to put them on a fast is lots of times just disastrous because their body is really not ready to do that yet. Anything else you want to impart?
No, and sensitizing, just for the record, There might be some folks out there who don't realize that all carbohydrates break down into sugar. And there might be some folks out there who realize when Dr. Gates says you're sensitizing, in other words, your cells, which refused to take blood sugar before because you had eaten the crappy standard American diet and just beat these sensors up until they wouldn't respond anymore. Now fasting, now eat grazing like this can allow your cells to start operating normally again and processing sugar again. The one thing I would say is you don't have to make it a big deal. I mean, I have a couple of, I can go in between patients, and sometimes I can kind of tell if I'm getting tired because I didn't sleep last night, or I can tell if I'm getting tired because I've been talking too long, because I don't have the brain endurance that I used to have. But I can also tell if I'm getting tired because my blood sugar is down. And so it takes a while to become that aware when you get into the program. But I just have I have some cashew nuts in my drawer. I can eat 7 or 8 or 10 cashew nuts, and it'll bring my blood sugar back up. Or I can just go over into our kitchen here. Literally, I mean, I can make a shake. I can make a Dr. Gates shake, which I frequently do. But I also can just, I can just get a teaspoonful of almond butter. In my case, I'm not allergic to almonds, or cashew butter or something like that. And it gets, and it gets my brain, it gets my blood sugar stable, and it gets my brain working again. And, it's really, you could have, if you can eat cheese, you could have a stick of cheese in an apple or something like that. But you don't have to make it like, I think the key is making it like really simple, the in-between meals, so that you can just hit it whenever you need, because it's not always at 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I'm fired up and I've got a couple of really, how should I put it, intense consults where people have a lot of questions, they're concerned, they're worried. It can get emotional, as some of you know. That burns up brain cells, and I might go in after each one of those and just get a teaspoonful of a nut butter. Then I'm able to, I like nut butter, so it's good for me.
He's introduced it. We know a lot of you can't have that right now.
Right. That's I said. These are things that I can have. So anyway, so that it's really I think it's really super important. I go back to the point when my colleagues were analyzing where do we start with this? Where is the place to start? We thought about anemias. A lot of people have anemias. We reasoned that, well, if people don't have enough oxygen in their systems, they can't respond, and every cell in the body needs oxygen. And then we reasoned, well, blood sugar, because every single cell in the body needs blood sugar to work. And the brain, the only nutrient to the brain is blood sugar. They were important, but we ultimately came down to the gut and the brain is where you need to start. But the blood sugar is monumental in helping. Stable blood sugar is monumental in helping you to get better, and monumental in staying better. So blood sugar.
Be attentive to it.
The problem with gluten-free products. They're not good for your blood sugar.
That's very true.
Okay, so be attentive to that too.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.